On November 18, 2025, President Trump sat across from Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in the Oval Office. The cameras flashed, the handshakes were filmed. But what nobody immediately understood was that in that moment, the entire military balance of the Middle East just shifted. Trump announced something extraordinary. The United States would sell F-35 stealth fighter jets to Saudi Arabia, not F-16, not older aircraft. The most advanced, most secretive fifth-generation fighter jet in the world. Until now, only Israel had these in the Middle East. Only Israel. But here's what most people missed. This wasn't just a weapons sale. It was a $1 trillion investment deal dressed up as a military transaction. And it's about to change everything you thought you knew about power in the Middle East. Why would the Trump administration suddenly hand the keys to America's most advanced fighter jets to a kingdom with a complicated human rights record, and do it without getting anything in writing from Saudi Arabia about normalizing with Israel? The answer reveals a darker, more complex story than anyone is talking about publicly. By the time this video ends, you'll understand three things. First, why this deal just broke a 30-year promise to Israel that nobody expected to break. Second, how a $1 trillion investment pledge became the real negotiation tool, not the fighter jets themselves. And third, what this means for your economy, your job market, and the future of Middle Eastern power dynamics. This isn't just about fancy military hardware. This is about geopolitical leverage, economic pressure, and human rights contradictions playing out in real time. The United States has always maintained something called Israel's qualitative military edge, basically a promise that Israel would always be more advanced militarily than its neighbors. Trump just threw that promise away, or did he? What unfolds in the next few years will determine whether the Middle East becomes more stable or slides into a cascading arms race that affects American jobs, Middle Eastern security, and global energy markets. And you need to understand why this happened now, not in 2017 or 2021. The timing tells you everything about Trump's real agenda. It started with a simple promise. In May 2025, Trump visited Saudi Arabia and sealed what the White House called the largest defense sales agreement in history, $142 billion in weapons, training, and technology. The package included everything: air defense systems, missiles, naval equipment, cyber upgrades. It was massive. But there was something else attached to that deal. Saudi Arabia pledged $600 billion in U.S. investments. Google got $5 billion for an AI hub. Amazon got another $5 billion for AWS services. Tech companies started salivating. American job creation numbers started getting calculated. By June 2025, Trump was already taking victory laps. Official statements claimed over $2 trillion in total Middle Eastern deals were signed from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE combined. But Trump wasn't satisfied. That summer and fall, he kept working. His team kept negotiating with the Crown Prince. The goal was simple: get more investment, get more weapons sales, get more leverage. Because Trump operates on one principle: transactions. Everything is a negotiation. Everything is a deal. Then came November 18th, 2025. The Crown Prince arrived at the White House with military honors, cannon salutes, and Air Force flyovers. Trump welcomed him like a crucial business partner, which, by then, he was. They sat down. They talked. And that's when the number changed. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman told Trump he would increase Saudi investments from $600 billion to $1 trillion. $1 trillion. That's not a weapons purchase. That's a country betting its economic future on American infrastructure, American companies, and American political goodwill. And Trump loved it. But the Crown Prince got something in exchange: the F-35s. Now, here's where this gets complicated. On the surface, Trump claimed this was about military capability. Saudi Arabia needed advanced jets to counter Iranian threats, to stabilize the region, to maintain deterrence. All standard geopolitical language. Boeing and Lockheed Martin were celebrating. This contract could be worth $15 to $20 billion or more across initial procurement and decades of maintenance. But the public story wasn't the real story. Multiple Saudi sources told major news outlets that Riyadh successfully separated the two issues. The F-35 sale didn't require normalization with Israel, even though Trump had promised both to his Israeli allies. Think about that for a second. Trump had been negotiating Israeli-Saudi normalization for months. That was supposed to be the deal. Israel normalizes, gets intelligence sharing, gets regional security benefits. Saudi Arabia opens diplomatic ties, gets to deal with Israel as equals. Win-win. Here's what most people don't realize. Saudi Arabia's track record with American weapons isn't clean. Since 2015, when the kingdom launched its war in Yemen against the Houthi rebels, it's been using American-made weapons extensively. Saudi F-15 fighters, Apache helicopters, precision-guided munitions, Tomahawk missiles. The entire arsenal, really. And the human cost has been catastrophic. Over 4,600 Yemeni civilians have been killed by Saudi-led airstrikes, according to human rights monitoring groups. Hospitals bombed, schools struck, weddings targeted, mass funeral attacks. And here's the part that makes this present F-35 deal uncomfortable. American technicians have been involved in every single one of those Saudi airstrikes. American mechanics service the planes. American technicians upgrade the targeting software. American military officers sit in the war room in Riyadh, providing real-time intelligence. American fingerprints are literally on Yemen's carnage. In 2018, a devastating airstrike hit a funeral hall in Yemen, killing 155 people, many of them women and children. A junior Saudi officer ignored orders from a more senior officer and launched the attack anyway. But where were the American advisors? Where was the intervention that was supposed to prevent civilian casualties? They were there. They saw it happen. And they couldn't stop it. The U.S. State Department tried. It financed an investigative body to review errant airstrikes. Pentagon lawyers trained Saudi officers in laws of war. Military officials suggested putting gun cameras on Saudi warplanes to monitor targeting accuracy. The coalition said no. They weren't interested in accountability. So here's the moral question everyone should be asking. If Saudi Arabia had F-15s and couldn't use them responsibly, if they killed thousands of civilians despite having experienced pilots and American support, why would giving them the world's most advanced fighter jet, the F-35, a jet that can coordinate intelligence across entire battle spaces, why would that go differently? There's also a diversion problem. In 2019, CNN investigated and found evidence that U.S. military equipment provided to Saudi Arabia was being transferred to militia groups, including some linked to al-Qaeda. American weapons meant for Saudi military use ended up in the hands of fighters who were actively opposed to American interests. This wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern. The Saudis have been using American weapons as currency to buy loyalty from regional militias and tribal leaders. It's a form of soft power that violates the terms of U.S. arms sales agreements. And the end-use monitoring? It's basically non-existent. Now ask yourself, what happens when F-35s get diverted? F-35s aren't just weapons. They're flying computer systems. They have classified software. They connect to satellite networks. American intelligence systems depend partially on keeping them secure and controlled. If one gets compromised, if its systems get studied by a rival power, if its stealth characteristics get analyzed and counteracted, the calculus of American air superiority globally changes. And there's one more hidden layer that nobody's talking about openly, the Chinese angle. In October 2025, just 1 month before the Crown Prince's visit, a leaked Defense Intelligence Agency warning circulated that China had significant presence in Saudi Arabia's defense industries. The concern: Chinese cyber espionage targeting sensitive weapon systems and technology transfer agreements. If China gets access to F-35 technology through Saudi Arabia's systems, it's not just a Saudi problem. It's a global American military problem. This isn't paranoia. This is documented concern from U.S. intelligence agencies, and it's one reason Congress will need to approve this sale. They're not going to rubber stamp it. Global ripple effects, regional arms proliferation. If Saudi Arabia gets F-35s without Israel normalization, every Gulf state demands them. Qatar already has advanced fighters. The UAE has pushed for F-35s for years. Now they'll argue, why not us? Turkey complicates it further. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan says Trump wants to sell F-35s to Turkey too. Congress faces an impossible choice. Justify selling stealth fighters to Saudi Arabia but deny them to NATO ally Turkey? You can't. The dominoes fall. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Turkey, others. A regional arms race ensues. 6 or 7 powers with cutting-edge technology, competing interests, mutual nervousness. That's destabilization. Economic consequence. The $1 trillion Saudi investment means 300,000 to 500,000 American jobs over a decade, AI infrastructure, tech hubs, aerospace, defense expansion. But it's contingent. If the deal sours, the investment evaporates. Saudi Arabia holds America's job market hostage. European and NATO allies weren't consulted. This bilateral Trump-Saudi transaction changes global military architecture unilaterally. The China contradiction. This deal pushes Saudi Arabia closer to Chinese economic dependence while creating cybersecurity vulnerabilities. China wants access to advanced American military systems. Saudi Arabia's defense sector is a pathway. The U.S. hands cutting-edge technology to an ally deepening ties with America's primary global competitor. Nobody's openly addressing this strategic contradiction. Our investigation reveals key data points that complicate the official narrative. First, the F-35 timeline. Jets won't arrive until 2031 to 2032, 6 to 7 years away. This isn't about the aircraft, it's about negotiations happening now. Trump gets the investment commitment in November 2025. Saudi Arabia gets F-35s in 2031. By then, Trump will either be out of office or in his late 80s. The political calculus will be different. Second, congressional approval. These jets require congressional approval. Republicans worry about Israel's objections. Democrats will push on human rights. Analysts estimate 60 to 70% approval probability, but it's not certain. If Congress conditions approval on Saudi human rights improvements, what happens to the $1 trillion investment pledge? Third, the numbers don't add up. Saudi Arabia's defense budget is $78 billion for 2025. They're already one of the world's largest military spenders with F-15, Typhoons, Rafales, and advanced air defense. Is buying F-35s a genuine military need or about prestige and parity with Israel? Military analysts differ. Some say Iran threatens them. Others say it's regional dominance signaling, probably both. Fourth, the human rights contradiction. Trump praised Crown Prince bin Salman's human rights record in November 2025, claiming he knew nothing about Jamal Khashoggi's 2018 murder, contradicted by U.S. intelligence that the Crown Prince ordered actions leading to the killing. Economic leverage overrides human rights concerns. The connection. This deal reshapes Middle Eastern power. For 30 years, Israel maintained military supremacy through American support. Now the U.S. says Israel gets first access, and allies eventually get it too. Trump uses military sales as economic policy. $1 trillion investments, leverage for Israeli-Saudi normalization, counter Iranian influence, strengthen defense contractors. But he's also created instability. Advanced weapons to human rights concerned states, cybersecurity vulnerabilities, regional arms races. That's chaos, not strategy. The leverage evaporates in 2031. Saudi Arabia becomes a full peer military power and won't need American support the same way. The question, is this good foreign policy? Is it ethical? Will it create 300,000 plus American jobs? Will Congress approve? Does Israel remain secure? Will Saudi Arabia honor investments? In 6 years, Congress scrutinizes this deal. Saudi Arabia navigates investment pressure. Israel demands security packages. China attempts intelligence collection. Trump either celebrates this or distances himself if it fails. The real question, at what cost to American security, international stability, and democratic values? What would you do? Where do you stand? Leave your answer in the comments.